Hello everyone. Topic, North Korea. It is April the 27th, 2017, Thursday. Okay, so I've done a couple videos on North Korea. The situation is very fluid. It's been about a week since I've done a video on it, so just want to do another update on where we are and to tell you why I believe that we are not going to strike North Korea unless they act first. And I'll tell you, I do believe there's only one realistic scenario by which we get rid of Kim Jong-un, and I'll tell you what that is in just a moment. But first, let me preface this by stating that if you follow my videos, you know that back before any of this latest talk of North Korea and the problems began, way back before that, back on January the 19th, I did a video where I stated that Donald Trump's biggest foreign policy decision and crisis would be North Korea. And I knew that because I've been watching the situation play out, and I've seen that the situation, the relationship between China and North Korea has greatly eroded since President Xi came to power, and I also understand that North Korea is getting closer and closer to developing a ballistic missile and miniaturizing a nuke that they could place under the cone of a missile that they could then reach the United States. They can already reach, of course, Seoul, and they can already reach Japan and the Philippines and possibly Australia. But they're no more than 10 years away. Within 10 years, and probably quite a bit less than that, they will be able to hit the United States with an ICBM with a nuclear charge. And so I predicted that. And just because I've been watching this situation for quite some time. The second thing, I did a video about 2 weeks ago, I guess, where I did a half-serious, half-joking video suggesting that that the way to deal with the situation was to hit Kim Jong-un personally. I suggested that the demonic Teletubby should be drone striked when he's driving down the road in his car, which shouldn't be too hard to locate his vehicle because he's probably the only man in North Korea driving around in a $400,000 Mercedes sports luxury sedan. In fact, his probably costs a lot more than 400 grand because we can assume he's got it equipped with bulletproof glass and maybe bulletproof body panels. It's probably a custom job. It's probably $1 million car. I'm pretty sure there aren't many North Koreans driving around in that sort of a ride. So it shouldn't be hard to locate. And I also suggested if you couldn't get him with a drone strike in his car, drop a couple of bunker busters on his house from a couple of stealths. And so I was half joking and half serious, and what I mean by that is that the idea is, or was in that video, that if you hit Kim Jong-un, you cut off the head of the snake, and possibly when you kill him without any notice, you send whoever is left to step up next in command into a state of paranoia and confusion. You might even have a power struggle within North Korea for who is going to take his place. He only has one child, and that is a 3-year-old daughter. Pretty sure they're not going to make a 3-year-old daughter the new leader of the Kim regime. Not that there would be anything left of a North Korea after that kind of an event anyway, but the idea is that you either drone strike him or drop a bunker buster on him, on his house while he's home, kill him, and then immediately you have someone high-ranking Chinese diplomat, maybe Xi himself, call whoever is next in command and say, hey, sorry that, Kim Jong-un has just been blown into the ether, but he's gone, and we highly recommend and suggest that you do not retaliate, because if you do, the American military is waiting to crush you, which they will, and we are not going to have your back. We are just going to let it happen. So wave the white flag and surrender. Now, this was the scenario I laid out, and I was half serious on that side, that if you cut off the head of the snake, you may be able to avoid a war and get rid of Kim Jong-un. On the other hand, it is public knowledge that in the event of a war against North Korea, the very first target would be Kim Jong-un and his administration. This is a known fact because a former member of the National Security Council who served under George Bush was interviewed, and he laid out every possible scenario that we had at the time when he was in the Bush administration for how they would deal with a war with North Korea. And he stated very specifically in that article, which you can read online, that the very first wave of missiles would be targeting Kim Jong-un and his regime. Basically, the regime it has most of their buildings and their residences in the northern sector of Pyongyang, and the plan would be to completely level that entire northern sector of Pyongyang in the first wave of missile attacks. So Kim Jong-un knows this, and therefore he probably has already put in place a plan so that if he is hit, if he is targeted and killed in the first wave of an attack by the United States, he's probably got a contingency plan for whoever would be next in command to go ahead and, I would think, launch everything they got, including whatever atom bombs that they have, which at this point we believe they have anywhere from 10 to 20 bombs. They can't deliver them with a missile as far as we know right now. They're getting there, but right now they would probably have to deliver that atom bomb by boat or by plane, and it's unlikely that that plane would even get out of territorial waters or into airspace before it was blown out of the air or blown out of the water. So probably neither of those things would work out. Of course, they're suspecting that he may have the ability. We know they can launch missiles from submarines, and it's possible that they could, in the case of Japan, maybe they could launch something from a submarine. Whether or not they have a miniaturized nuke that they can put onto a missile that they can launch from a submarine is still in question. Kim Jong-un is stating he does have that technology, but the intelligence agencies at this point are not sure of that. So anyway, that is what I was referring to. Now, if I were the President of the United States, and the reason I was saying I was half joking about that is that if I'm the President of the United States and I'm presented with that option, hey, do you want to drone strike Kim Jong-un, or do you want to hit his house with a bunker buster and hope it cuts off the head of the snake, and hopefully it ends it right there, and hopefully North Korea surrenders? Would I make that call? Absolutely not. I wouldn't even have to think about it for 3 seconds, because it's a roll of the dice. It's a complete guessing game. And if you guess wrong, you're talking about millions of people being killed. Okay? So it's just a call you can't make. Which goes to my point of this video, which is that there's a lot of dick wagging, let's say, going on right now between the United States and North Korea. But I believe that's all it is dick wagging. Because I don't believe that we are going to exercise the option to hit North Korea. There's a lot of people saying, well, we should hit their nuke sites. Well, the problem with that is that they have a lot of mobile sites where they can launch missiles from. We don't know if they've miniaturized a nuke. They claim they have. We don't know if they have, but they have a lot of mobile sites. They have a lot of fixed sites, and they have underground sites. So you would have to be able to get them all. And this would not be something you could do in 5 minutes. This would be something that would take probably days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, bombing various targets, and you would have to get them all. This is a situation. This is the problem that you have. If you cannot take down that entire deal in North Korea in a matter of minutes, you can't do it, because you cannot allow them to respond, because you have approximately 4.5 million people in Seoul, in the metropolis, and then you have another 15 million outside the metropolis, in the suburbs, all of them within range of the 15,000 conventional missiles that North Korea has pointed at Seoul, but also the possibility that they could get an atom bomb, the possibility that maybe they do have miniaturization and could launch a nuke. They also are within range, well within range of Japan. So unless you can get everything very, very quickly, they're going to get some of those missiles off, and you're going to have more probably than 1 million people killed. So it's a decision you can't make. The only way that we will take any military action hitting any targets in North Korea at all, the only way that would happen is if Kim Jong-un himself starts it. We are not going to go in there and try to hit his nuke sites. We're not going to do any of that, because his response would end up getting probably 1 million people, maybe more, killed in Japan and South Korea. Not to mention we have about 125,000 or so troops there. So it's just, I don't see it happening. We're just seeing a lot of dick wagging. Now, another thing that proves to me that this is what's going on is that what we're also seeing is a game of good cop, bad cop being run. Let's look at the facts. About 2 weeks ago or so, we have President Xi goes to meet Donald Trump for a couple days and hang out with him for a couple days. And of course, at Mar-a-Lago, and during the dinner, the first evening, Trump makes it public that we've just launched this missile strike in Syria. This was primarily, I think, as much as anything, to send a message to Kim Jong-un. Also, it was done so publicly. And then they publicly admit that we are negotiating a deal with President Xi of China, to give him concessions in trade in exchange for him putting pressure on the North Korean regime. Now, this is something that you normally would be done behind closed doors and would be secret. But no, it wasn't. It was purposely put out there and blasted all over the mainstream news. Now, in North Korea, they monitor every single bit of news in the United States. So all these types of things and all this, all options are on the table, all this kind of stuff, this is good cop, bad cop. We are playing the bad cop, trying to incite fear and paranoia to Kim Jong-un, and allowing China to go play the good cop, where they're going to come in on the other side and say, hey, we got your back here, but you got to stop testing nukes and testing ballistic missiles, because as you can see, the Americans are really serious about hitting you. And this is a problem we don't want. It's a problem you don't need, and you'll lose. So it's kind of a good cop, bad cop routine. I can assure you that we have no intention of launching a preemptive strike on North Korea. And let's look at some other evidence. North Korea tested their first nuke in 2006 under the Bush administration, while we were running around in Iraq trying to find weapons of mass destruction, which didn't exist. Kim Jong-un was actually, or Kim Jong-il at that time, was actually testing a nuke. So thank you very much, George W. Bush, you incompetent. So anyway, this happens, and you can imagine that as soon as they tested that nuke, that there was probably an emergency meeting. And they probably sat around the table and said, gee, what are we going to do? And my guess is, once they sat around the table and the president was given the information from the military, from the intelligence agencies, from his NSC, from all those people, they probably came to the conclusion that an attempt to hit his nuclear testing facilities, or his where he makes these nukes, because we probably know where some of these places are, even though they are underground, but the decision was made not to hit them. That decision was made back in 2006, obviously, because we didn't hit them. And it wasn't made in 2007 or 08 when Obama became president, or any of the years of the 8 years that Obama was president, knowing good and well that they're testing nukes, that they're testing ballistic missiles. We have never, ever, ever launched a preemptive strike to try to take out his weapons program. We've tried to use sanctions, and we tried to work through China. So that tells us a lot. It tells us that the President of the United States, whether it's Bush, whether it was Obama, and now Trump, they're all being told the same thing. That, quite honestly, we could hit. We know where some of these facilities are. We may know where most of them are, where they're developing these nukes and stuff, underground places. We know where a lot of their mobile units are. We know where a lot of their fixed sites are. We could hit them, but they're going to respond. And when they do, you're going to have millions of people killed. The only possible scenario would be that you nuke them. And even then, you would have to hope that their radars do not pick up the nukes as they're heading toward North Korea, in which case they launch everything they got, and you still end up with millions of dead South Koreans and Japanese. And I doubt that we would launch a preemptive nuke strike on them anyway, because again, the fallout the nuclear fallout that would spread into China, Russia, and eventually go up into the atmosphere, cause acid rain. It would cause major issues with the world's food supply. You would have massive starvation all around the world. You would have nuclear fallout. I mean, a nuclear weapon is a defensive weapon, and to use it as an offensive weapon, or to try to deal with the consequences of the aftermath of using such a weapon, is just not something that you're going to do. And that's why we haven't done it, and that's why we're not going to do it. The only thing that you can really do with Kim Jong-un is to put pressure on China to try to pressure China into getting Kim Jong-un to stop any further development of his ballistic missile or nuke program. But I don't believe it's going to work, because if you try to sanction North Korea, well, they quite honestly don't care if millions of their citizens starve to death. They prefer that they didn't, but if they look at the situation and say, well, a couple million of our people starve to death, and we continue our nuclear program, or we go ahead and stop developing our nuclear program and our ballistic missile program, and we then allow the goods to come in to feed these people, which would we do? Well, North Korea is going to choose to continue their nuclear program and let millions of people starve to death. They will make sure that the regime is fed, they'll make sure that the military is fed, but the average rank and file North Korean citizen, they're already, half the country's already dying of malnutrition anyway. So sanctions only work if the leader of the country has any concern at all for the welfare of his citizens, and in North Korea they do not. Okay, so sanctions on their food, their grain, their rice, their wheat, whatever, is not going to work. Now, depriving them of fuel, refusing to take their coal, things like that, it may throw a wrench in their ability to move forward with these programs, but I just don't think that Kim Jong-un is going to give up his weapons programs. I think it's a reality that we're going to have to get comfortable with and that we're going to have to deal with. The fact of the matter is, unless he launches some sort of a military strike first, in which case we would respond. I don't know if we would even respond with nukes, but we would respond. At that point, yeah, we would take down the regime, the country, the whole 9 yards, and we're talking about a real mess. But that would have to imply that Kim Jong-un is completely nuts. Now, I don't think he is completely nuts. First of all, it's hard for me, you can't be completely nuts and be a complete crazy person and manage a regime the way he does. We know he's not stupid, because we know that in fact that Kim Jong-un, under a phony name, he and his brother attended college in Switzerland. He has 2 degrees. One in physics. He's a physicist, and also he got his degree from a second degree in a military academy in economics. So clearly Kim Jong-un is not a dumbass. He's a smart dude, and he's surrounded by a lot of smart people. They're not stupid people. Remember, they're developing nuclear weapons, and we're doing everything we can to stop them. They do have pretty good capabilities in cyber warfare. So we're not talking about a hermit kingdom that's full of very low IQ idiots. We are talking about some extreme paranoid people, but we're not talking about stupid people. And you would have to be stupid to launch a preemptive strike. I think he's dick-wagging, and I think that we are dick-wagging. I think that's what all this is about. It's a dick-wagging contest, but there is not going to be, in my opinion, a preemptive strike by the United States, or anyone else for that matter, on his nuclear facilities or anything else, because you can't predict what he might do. But if I were a betting man, I would bet that he will respond. And he will respond by hitting Seoul in Tokyo, and you'll have a million, maybe more people killed. So it's just not, you can't roll the dice when the stakes are that high. So I think that any type of a military strike, preemptive, is off the table completely. Or, otherwise we would have done it by now. He's got 20 weapons now, maybe 10 or 20 weapons. If we were going to do it, we would have done it when he tested his first one, before he could even use it really. He had just tested it. If we were going to do it, we would have done it 10 days, 2 weeks after he tested the first one back in 2006. The fact that Bush, Obama, and now Trump have not exercised the option should tell us a lot. It tells us that they've been given information that is telling them exactly what I'm telling you, that the response from Kim Jong-un would probably be a military one, full-throated, and you would have a lot of dead people, and an even larger issue than you have now. It wouldn't solve anything. So that's my thoughts on it, but I told you at the beginning of this video that I thought there was only one way that you get rid of Kim Jong-un. And I believe the only way that you get rid of Kim Jong-un is a coup within North Korea. I think that's the only way it's going to happen. It's only going to happen if, in fact, people within the North Korean regime actually execute a coup and kill him and take over the country. I think that's the only way it happens, is if it happens from the inside, and that's very, very difficult to do. Very difficult to do. Just because of the way that things are set up in North Korea, I imagine every single person in his hierarchy is got multiple levels of surveillance on them. So the idea that you could ever even get a couple of guys around him to get together somewhere in a room or somewhere privately and discuss taking him out, I just think that they have too many layers of security. They've been playing this game in North Korea for a very, very long time. I think that they've had coup attempts in the past, but you can see that they always fail. And even a whisper of anything like that will get you killed right now. I mean, he killed his brother, his older brother, and because he thought he may be trying to negotiate or work some sort of... I don't even think he was trying to do a coup. I think he was just questioning some of Kim Jong-un's decisions. You're not allowed to question Kim Jong-un's decisions at all. Not even allowed to think about it. Even if the thought goes through your mind, you could probably be killed. So I think the possibility, it's the only way I think that you'll get regime change in North Korea, but I think even that has a less than 1% chance of happening. So I think that the reality that we are looking at, unfortunately, is that we are going to have to get comfortable with the fact that we are going to be dealing with the North Korean regime and Kim Jong-un for a very long time, and probably 10 years or less, we're going to be dealing with a nuclear, probably hydrogen-capable North Korea with the ability to launch a intercontinental ballistic missile that can reach the United States with a nuclear payload. I think that is the reality, and I think we're going to have to start getting comfortable with that, because any other solution or scenario that you can put up is going to result in the unthinkable. So it looks like we're going to have to find a way to get comfortable with a nuclear-armed North Korea for a very long time to come. That's my thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.